Good morning, everyone. I am here to talk to you about another tool that can be put in any meteorologist's tool belt, really, and it is a website put out by the National Weather Service, and actually specifically the Climate Prediction Center, and that is the Global Precipitation Time Series. So, like I said, I will be talking about a model or a tool put out by the Climate Prediction Center, and that is the Global Precipitation Time Series. And this essentially allows us as meteorologists to compare the normal or average precipitation amounts versus the actual daily precipitation in a specified city or location. Now, this website is updated daily at 3:30 p.m. every single afternoon, and it allows you to look at the previous 30, 90, or 365 days. And then you kind of have to ask yourself, well, why is this useful to a meteorologist? Right. It allows us to show the overall trends in precipitation over a past duration of time. So that way you can see, has it been a wet period or a dry period? And then you can look at the climate data or almanac data, something like that, and see what a wet or dry year may indicate for the following year, or that winter or something like that. And this really just allows us to show how much more or less precipitation one area may get in the specified time compared to the normal. So let's take a trip somewhere. Where would you like to go? I personally don't really have that much time or the money to take a trip down south right now, so I'm going to stay a little bit closer to home, and I'm going to pick number 14, Philadelphia, and I'm going to look at the data for the past 90 days. So essentially, this is from the beginning of the year and up until now. And this chart, the top line is the accumulated observed amounts of precipitation, and then the bottom line, which is fairly linear, that is the accumulated normal amounts. Now the period totals and surplus of precipitation are given in inches and millimeters for those it concerns, but as we kind of analyze this, you can see it's pretty much fairly wet start to 2019, at least in Philadelphia. 3.5 inches of liquid precip above the normal. So 2018 was fairly wet, at least for most places in Pennsylvania and across some parts of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And 2019 is really starting off that way then as well. And now let's see what the last year has looked like for Philadelphia in precip. And really up until about August, or just the beginning of September, we were pretty close to average. And then you can see we get that huge spike, almost 4.5 inches of liquid precip in just a couple of days there, and it really shoots up, and we have been well above average here for really the past 6 months. 17.9 inches over the normal as of right now. So I kind of like to show, which should we grab? Should we grab the inflatable boat or the canoe? Because from these numbers, it looks like we might be floating down our front, the road in front of our house here before too long. And then you can kind of compare this to another place a little bit further north of Philadelphia, see if they've seen the same numbers. Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, 24 inches of liquid precip surplus. That's 2 feet more than they normally get in a year. Then you kind of have to wonder, well, what are the implications and impacts of all this extra liquid? Luke Bryan said, rain is a good thing. Well, in some cases it isn't always. Some of these places are very saturated. The more precip or rain, snow that they may get, it could lead to flooding in some areas. And another thing some people don't always think about is, basements begin to get wet when, they get heavy rain or you have flooding or something like that. And that can obviously impact a lot of people. Depending, it doesn't, if you're in the flood zone or even if you're not, it still does happen to some people. So really this tool allows meteorologists to better see the potential impacts of coming weather events with regards to what conditions have already been like in a certain area. And now you can also allow it to, or use this tool I should say, to compare weather trends. Does a wet northeast mean a dry southwest? That's a question I raised here, and from this Lubbock, Texas figure here, you can see it kind of does, yeah. They have been fairly dry over the past year compared to average, 3 inches below the normal, and you can do this for other places as well in the southwest to see, are they all also looking very, very dry? And then you can kind of go back in the data and look at, another year that saw a very wet northeast. that also show then another dry southwest. So it kind of allows you to look at climate trends of precip and things like that. And then one more thought to consider here. Saturated ground and high water levels or a high water table usually indicate higher streams or standing water, ponds, things like that could get fungus or algae growing on them. And this could possibly lead then to higher levels of mosquitoes that could carry diseases. So predicting these higher water levels could also even maybe indicate higher levels of bugs as well. None of us like bugs, so you better get that bug spray out if this rain or snow continues here for the next year. But overall, the Global Precipitation Time Series is a great tool for meteorologists to use to track precipitation trends over either short periods of time or long periods of time, and really just kind of see what the impacts of a surplus or a deficit can have, in a specific region. Thank you.